Good evening, Lemon Heads. Welcome to Lemon Live at 5, the Don Lemon Show. Man, what a day I've had. And then I sat down, I made myself a drink, not a drink, not like an alcohol drink, but like a drink like my ginger ale, whatever. And I left to the kitchen. So now I can't get up. Maybe I'll get up during the ads or something. How are y'all? I hope you guys are having a good day as well. The week is almost over. Yeah, wait till I tell you about my day. Madness, I tell you. But again, I'm really happy that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you hit the like, make sure you hit the thumbs up. It does affect the algorithm. More people become aware of our channel and our conversation. And Lord knows we need people to become aware of the truth, because the truth will make you free. And we do it every single day on this program, on this channel. And we have a truth teller for you coming up, some truth tellers. But let me get my say in before I talk to you. And this person is related to what's happening in the world right now, okay? So sit back and relax, class. Get ready for this. There will be a quiz at the end. So as I always say, and I say, brothers and sisters, that's how I usually start, especially the morning show. Citizens who still believe in the truth and dignity. The government of the United States of America has shut down, not because, we didn't run out of money. As I told you yesterday, we are a rich country. We have a lot of money. It's just that how we allocate it. And then there are a lot of folks who want to hang on to their money and become billionaires and trillionaires. So we are closed down, the government, not because the people failed, not because we ran out of money, but because the men in power decided that our lives, that your paychecks, that your health care, that your safety were bargaining chips in this game of vengeance and one-upsmanship. Speaking of that, the personification of that is Donald Trump and his enablers in Congress. They have walked us right into this shutdown like it was a planned detour. They didn't stumble into it. They caused it. They engineered it, right? So they wanted this because chaos is the only oxygen that this administration really knows, like how to breathe, right? That's their oxygen. Division, one-upsmanship, owning the libs. So let's be really clear about this. It's not about fiscal responsibility, because they've been lying so much about what it's about. Because if it was about fiscal responsibility, they would not be giving tax cuts, so many tax cuts to the very wealthy. It's not about balancing the budget or cutting waste. Remember how much Donald Trump has contributed to the national debt, to the deficit. It's not about balancing budgets. It's not about cutting waste. If it were, then they would not be handing out tax giveaways to the billionaires. Wow, right? And then furloughing the very workers who keep us going, the people who keep us safe every day, keep us fed, they keep us functioning, like the farmers. We're going to get to that. No, this is about power. It's about control. It's about punishment. So right now, nearly half of Health and Human Services workforce is being sent home. The cybersecurity agency, the one that keeps foreign adversaries from shutting down our hospitals, our banks, our water systems, that's been gutted to skeleton crew levels. So I don't know if that's cutting the fat. That's really cutting into the bone. Is this Doge all over again? Like for what? What? So, and yet Social Security still pays out. Medicare still runs. Transportation Safety Administration, the TSA, the agents there, they're still at the airport, but they're working without pay. Now, imagine going into your job and they're like, yeah, we're going to work today, but then we're not going to pay you. And who knows when they'll get a check. Federal employees, mothers, fathers, veterans showing up to protect this nation while the men who sit in Congress refuse to protect them. Now, this shutdown, it's not just a budget fight, okay? It is a moral fight. And as I've been saying, I think this is for the heart and soul of the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party, the energy from the Democratic Party is, we can handle this. I'm okay with it, even those who are not getting paid. You see what Sarah Carter says in the comments. My air traffic controller spouse will not be getting paid. It's a moral fight, because sorry about that, Sarah. Because the question, and Sarah, let us know, how do you feel about that? Are you okay with this? Do you want him to hold out? The question on the table tonight is this: who do we become when our leaders see public service as a hostage? When they weaponize the paychecks of workers and the safety of citizens because they're trying to score points in culture wars? Like, what's that all about? Who do we become? Who do we become when we do that? So they told you that it was about immigration. They told you it was about healthcare. They told you it was about transgender athletes, but it was never about those things. It was a distraction. It was about using the politics of resentment to mask the truth. I mean, that they want to use politics of resentment to mask the truth that white men who radicalize to the right are the number one domestic terror threat in this country. But you won't hear them shut down the government to deal with that. You won't hear them cut their own salaries or their own perks or their own pensions. They just cut yours. And like the spouses of our dear Lemonhead here. And so tonight I'm telling you, don't be fooled by this, because the shutdown is not a sign of weakness. It certainly isn't. It is a sign of strategy. They are testing the limits of what you will endure. They are seeing just how far that they can go before you start to rise up and before you say that enough is enough. Because history is going to remember who grifted, who profited from the chaos, and who suffered. History is going to remember that this administration treated working people as leverage, as collateral damage. And then history is going to remember whether the rest of us stood silent or if we stood up. So here is the part that you should know, okay? And I like to give you a reckoning, as I said that today. By the way, I was in a Cat Greenleaf show, and I said, I like to leave people with like a reckoning. Like, what is the reckoning here? How do we deal with this? The shutdown is not the end. I think it's the opening act. If you want your democracy to survive, you cannot sit this one out, because the only thing more dangerous than a government that shuts down is a people who shut up. Please don't shut up. Do not shut up. This is a choice. I think you know which choice is the right choice. So again, thank you for joining us today on this Thursday in America, the day number 2 of the shutdown. I am joined by Will Westmoreland. He's a farmer, rural activist, and a political consultant. Will, thank you for joining. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Don. Thanks for having me on again.
What did I get right and what did I get wrong?
You got it all right. I tell you what, I love the introduction, and what I like most about it, Don, is that when we're talking about these critical issues, and I'm guilty of this too, the minute we see an elected official come on TV to make their case, we all go to our different corners, our political corners. We put those walls up, and the truth is in what you said, and that is that there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of personal stories behind these shutdowns and the policies that are going to be impacted. And I'm really thankful that you let me come tell my personal story. So thank you for that.
So, Will, I'm going to share your personal story, and then we're going to talk to you candidly about how you feel about this shutdown. Okay. So I want everybody to sit back and listen, because this one is, look, there are going to be tears here, sadness, and I believe of joy, because in the end, I don't want to give it away, but I want you to watch Will's story. It's really a heart-wrenching story. And then again, we're going to talk about why Will is here and what he feels and believes about this shutdown. Here it is.
Hey guys, it's Will from the Back 40. And listen, if you ever wanted to do me a favor and you haven't had a chance to do it yet, I'm going to ask you to do me that favor today. If you would, just watch this video all the way through. That's all I want you to do. Because you know what? I wasn't always this grizzled old gray guy that you see standing in front of you right now. Once upon a time, I was this scared 12-year-old kid laying in a bed at Cox North Hospital in Springfield, Missouri. For 2 months I laid there, recovering from a farm accident that would change my life forever. And right here's where it happened. This is the family farm that I grew up on in Brighton, Missouri. And this tree was just a little tree when I was 12 years old. But I laid right here on the ground, just a few feet from this tree, for over 2 hours waiting on an ambulance to show up to give me the critical triage treatment that I needed and to get me to the hospital for the critical care that my body had to have. The story of that day is a very common story in rural America. I don't want to show the houses that are here now because I don't have the permission of the homeowners. And even though it's legal to film from the road, out here in rural America, you don't go filming people's houses without them telling you that it's okay. But just over my shoulder in that direction is the farmhouse that my grandparents lived in when the accident occurred, and right across the street is a renovated dairy barn that my mother and my 2 sisters and I lived in. And then right beyond the point that I showed you just a minute ago is an old World Fair barn that was built back in the early 1900s. This was a 640-acre farm, and my family lived here, and some of the best memories in my life occurred here. But what I want to tell you about today is why we need better health care in rural America and why I think this shutdown is justified. On April 4th, 1980, I woke up in the morning and it was like any other day on the farm. I put on my blue jeans and my boots and my shirt and my little vinyl leather jacket that I always wore around the farm in the spring and in the fall just to keep warm on a cold day. And I came down to that spot that I showed you, and my grandfather and I dug 40 post holes that day for a riding arena for the Arabian horses that we were raising on the farm. We raised horses, we raised cattle, we raised chickens, and when I was a little kid, we even raised hogs. It was a true small family farm where we raised all kinds of animals, and that helped us supply the food chain with critical food raised in a healthy environment. It was just a great way to grow up. But on this day, everything changed. At about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, after digging 39 of those 40 post holes, my left glove got caught in the power takeoff on a tractor when the auger that we were using hit rock underground and caused the tractor to lurch sideways. My arm was wrapped around the power takeoff shaft, and when I felt it go in, I screamed to my grandfather, "Papa, shut it off." And he did. And that shaft only turned 2 more times, but the damage it did, it was just unimaginable. My grandfather climbed down off the tractor and immediately began wailing and crying and took out his pocket knife and cut me loose from the power takeoff shaft, laid me on the ground, and I looked over as my grandfather ran to the farmhouse to get an ambulance here to save my life. What I saw, I'll never forget. My thumb had been pulled off, my wrist had been broken in 2 places, and 2 fingers on my hand were laying flat back against the top of my hand. My forearm had been broken in 2 places and was laying at an odd angle. My elbow had been dislocated and crushed and was laying at a strange angle. My upper arm had been broken in 1 place and had been pulled apart by about 4 inches. My arm had been ground up in the center where my elbow is, and honestly, guys, it looked like hamburger meat. And I'm sorry to be so detailed about this, but I want you to know what we're fighting for when we're talking about funding rural hospitals. After a little while, it hit me, the seriousness of what was happening, and I won't lie to you, I screamed out to heaven that day, "God, please don't let me die." And that's a lot for a 12-year-old to have on his shoulders. But that's what happens on farms, and that's what happens in rural America. And that's why it's so critical that we have the funding that we need, because there were no life flights when this happened to me. I laid there for an hour and 50 minutes waiting for an ambulance to show up. As the sun melted the fat on my arm from the injury that I had occurred, my grandmother came down. Sorry guys, tough to get through this. My grandmother came down and laid her jacket across my arm to keep the sun from melting the fat on my arm, and we just laid there together praying. It seemed like we prayed forever. My walk with the Lord really started then, because I'll tell you guys, as I cried out to heaven and said, "Please don't let me die," there's a voice that I heard at some point that just told me, "Willie, I'm not going to let you die." And at that point, for whatever reason, call it shock, call it really God talking to me, I knew that I was going to be okay. The ambulance came, and I got to tell you, these guys were trained to the hilt. They took gallon after gallon of saline solution and washed my arm and cleaned it up and put my arm in an air splint. They put me in the ambulance, and by that time they were so worried that my grandfather might have a heart attack that they put him in an ambulance too. and they took us to Cox North Hospital in Springfield, Missouri. And that's where my journey began. I was in that hospital for 2 months, surgery after surgery, cutting away dead skin and dead tissue and getting skin grafts and allowing my bones to grow back together. But here's what I want to tell you guys. It was wrong for a young boy of 12 years old to have to lay on the ground for almost 2 hours waiting on an ambulance to show up. If that same accident happened today, it would only take 36 minutes for me to get to a hospital. Because in this old alfalfa hayfield you see out here behind me, we could have a helicopter land there, clean me up, get me on board, and get me to a hospital right away. And you'll just excuse me, folks, if I don't want to go back to that. If I think it's wrong to cut the very Medicaid program that funds most of rural health care. I don't want any other 12-year-old kid to have to lay on the ground for an hour and 50 minutes waiting for help to show up, wondering if they're going to live or die. So when you see these fancy politicians in their $1,000 suits stand before the cameras and make an argument that this is all about politics and that the Democrats are shutting down the government, I want you to remember this video. And I want you to remember that 12-year-old kid that laid over there on the ground for an hour and 50 minutes waiting for an ambulance to show up. This is why we're shutting down the government, because they cut $137 billion from rural health care, and they gave us a bribe in the form of $50 billion to cause us to be quiet, to fund the $137 billion that they cut. And they want us to compete for that $50 billion like it's the Hunger Games, like a little kid's life, laying out there on the ground bleeding out, isn't worth the money that we put into Medicaid to make sure that our kids and our elderly folks with chronic conditions and all of our young people and families that are involved in accidents in rural America because we have to travel further and faster to get to the places that we need to be, like none of them are worth it. That's what I want you to remember. These funding cuts have real consequences in this country, and any little kid that has to go through what I went through when I was 12 years old would be one of those consequences. And by God, that's not right. And surely, Democrat, Republican, or Independent, we can all agree on that. So that's all I'm asking you to do, is put your political labels aside and just agree that if you live in rural America, or hell, anywhere in this country, we deserve good health care. We deserve treatment that arrives quickly and provides us with world-class care and gets us to a hospital when we need it. I'm sorry, I cry at grocery store openings now, guys, but this is one of the most difficult things that ever happened to me. And what we're doing in this country is wrong, and the consequences are real. So call your senator, call your congressman, and tell them to do the right thing. God bless.
That was hang on. That was, I cried. I told you I cry very easily. Will. That was difficult for me to listen to. And I saw you listening to that. So talk to me.
Well, anybody that's been through something that traumatic, Don, it becomes a part of who you are. You never forget it. And I have a lot of people that ask me, why did a 57-year-old farmer get involved in rural advocacy this late in the game? I'd like to think I've got a long track ahead of me, but that's the primary reason why, because I suffered the consequences of a failure on the part of our society to care enough about its people to provide adequate health care. We didn't have ambulance barns out locally in rural America, Don. The ambulance that was dispatched to our family farm to service me came from 25 miles away from the closest hospital. They didn't know where our farm was. It took a long time to get there, a long time to triage me, and a long time to get back. And 2 years later, 2 years after this accident happened in 1980, in 1982, my local community built a rural hospital. And as they were having the meeting about the planning and the funding for this, one of the articles that was read was the newspaper article about my farm accident. And everybody said, for those little Willie Westmorelands out there, I was Willie then, we need to build a hospital to provide care for the people in our community. And that's why now, if that accident happened, I would be there getting critical care. And a third of the time it took for them to provide that care, back when it happened. And if we put these cuts in place in the big, beautiful bill, if we let this go through without putting up a fight, that little rural hospital that they built will start losing $3 million a year. And the only way they're going to be able to make that up is if they cut the services that are critical for little kids that might be in the situation I was back in the day, or they start charging so much that people have to start turning these services down or not taking advantage of them. So that's why I'm fighting the fight I am. And I just encourage everybody, if you can, and it's the last thing I'll say about it, is put away the political prism, put away the political glasses, and look at this from a human perspective. Grandmas and grandpas that have heart attacks and die on the way to the hospital because it takes too long. Little kids like me that have farm accidents that occur on the highway because we have to travel further and we go faster in rural America to get where we need to be. This is the truth about these cuts. It's not political, it's personal. And I just don't want to see any kid have to suffer through what I did, because as you can tell today, nobody deserves that.
Well, we're glad that you're here, and we're glad that you're whole now. I'm sure that took a long time. There's a lot of recovery, a lot of therapy, and Will, I think this is important because I hate to talk about politics, but this is politics.
It is.
And the people who live where you grew up and live where you live now, this is Trump country. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. My county went 80% for Donald Trump.
And so that means that the people who are supporting what is happening on the Republican side, on the MAGA side, on the Trump side, they're supporting less funding, fewer services for people who live in your area, in rural America, in the heartland, as they say. And their interests are not being met by the very people they voted for. Do you think that they are aware of this? That's why I think it's so powerful that you're sharing your story. You think that they are aware of it? And then I have another question on the other side of that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to excuse that mentality, and I'm not going to do that, because there is an element of this out there where, people voted a certain way because of the darkest instincts in mankind. And I don't want to deny that. But if I could put my political hat on for just a minute, when we look at rural polling, it's very similar to urban inner city polling. The politics of resentment and the reasons that drive the vote in rural America are very similar to the same reasons that drive the vote in inner city urban America. This politics of resentment that we've been left out, that we've been ignored, and what that tends to cause to happen. And we saw this with our young people in the last election, regardless of race and educational background and socioeconomic background. They voted for the person that screamed the loudest that they were going to help them, whether they made the decision to help them or not. But I do have some hope in this area, me personally. The president's lost 9% of his support in rural America just since January. And his independent rating—
9%? Sorry.
9%.
9%. Okay.
And his rating among independent voters in rural America is at the lowest point of any president since World War II. It's down to 29%. Because when I talk to the people I grew up with here, nobody voted to cut, even though this is the net result of their vote, nobody conscientiously voted to cut healthcare funding or to keep ambulances from being able to show up on those farms to help out little kids. The thought process just didn't take them all the way through to the end result of what that vote would mean. And now, as we say out here, and I've heard you say it before, Don, the chickens are coming home to roost. The results of that vote and what they mean in people's lives, not just the political arguments that happen up here at 30,000 feet that are so, bravely fought out on keyboards across the United States. Now those chickens are coming home to roost, and the real impacts of bad policy are hitting home. So the negative part of this is that it had to happen to begin with. I'm still just dumbfounded by that. But the positive part of this is that the results are being seen now, and there's a trend back in the other direction. Not as fast as we want to see it. It's not as many people as we want to see, but it is happening. And for me, that offers hope.
More about the impact that Will is having on this and what he plans to do next. I don't want to give anything away, but there may be a visit to DC that is in place for Will. Will, stand by 2 minutes. I want to get a word from our sponsors. We're back with Will Westmoreland, and you're going to hear more about what's happening with this shutdown. 2 minutes, a break for our sponsors. Support for the Don Lemon Show comes from Ollie. You know, my dogs, Boomer, Barkley, and Gus, they run the house. Barkley thinks he's the boss. Gus is pickier than a teenager. Boomer, picky too. But Barkley will eat my shoes if I let him. Feeding them used to feel like running a diner for picky customers. And that is why I switched to Ollie. It's fresh, human-grade meals, protein-packed, and slow-cooked in 5 tasty recipes. Even Gus eats it without giving me that, you call this dinner? Look. So you take a 30-second quiz, Ollie builds a customer plan, and meals show up right to your door. The app even connects you to real health experts for screening. So since switching, my boys have shinier coats, they have more energy, and fewer I'm not eating this standoffs. Okay, so head to ollie.com/lemon and use the code LEMON and get 60% off of your first box. That is OLLIE.com/lemon. And you get 60% off of your first box. And with their happiness guarantee, if your pup doesn't love it, you're going to get your money back. So trust me, your dogs will thank you, maybe even give you back your spot on the couch, or in our case, in the bed as well. Ollie. This show is brought to you by Hexclad. Now, I used to cook everything in one sad old pan. Don't tell me you don't know about that. I'm sure you did too. Eggs, pasta, steak, you name it. Cleaning it was punishment. And then I found Hexclad. Changed my entire kitchen game. You remember the soaking and all of that? I don't have to do that anymore. Hexclad is stainless steel performance with non-stick cleanup. I use a 12-inch pan the most, big enough for a stir fry or steak, light enough to flip an omelet without feeling like a workout. They are scratch resistant, even with metal utensils, dishwasher safe, oven safe to 500 degrees, toxin free, and backed by a lifetime warranty. These pans will probably outlast me. And listen, if Gordon Ramsay uses them, you know they're legit, right? So right now you can get 10% off of Hexclad at hexclad.com/lemon. That's HEXCLAD.com/lemon. It's time to retire that crusty old pan that's haunting your kitchen. Hexclad. Thank you to our sponsors. Back now with Will Westmoreland, who shared his harrowing story about what happened to him on his farm growing up, and just the jeopardy that they're putting rural people in now with this government shutdown. The Republicans are putting folks in now with this government shutdown. They're not going to get the service that they need, and lives will be in jeopardy. I also want to talk to you about this. Okay. Well, I want to talk to you about, this is something, I don't know if you know John Boyd Jr. is a black farmer. He was on CNN with my friend, Sarah Seidner, and he talked about how tariffs are hurting farmers. Here it is.
New this morning, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins says the U.S. farming economy is, quote, in a significant challenge as farmers struggle with the impact tariffs are having on their livelihood. It's been 5 months since President Trump announced his global trade war. As a result, China, the world's biggest soybean buyer,
can we just fast forward this to about 48 seconds in so we can get to John? There we go.
Tariff idea was that China relied so heavily on the U.S. market that it would force Beijing to accept trade terms that helped American consumers and businesses, including farmers. What is it doing for your farm?
Well, right now, American farmers are really struggling out here. Within 10 months, the president has caused complete chaos for American farmers with his tariffs. $20 billion to Argentina alone, and they're the ones actually selling soybeans. So the president says he's a great deal maker. Well, the president got played on this one, and the American farmers are hurting at this. And you mentioned the Secretary, Ms. Rollins. We haven't had no communication. We have 160,000 members in this country, and we haven't been at the table with the Agriculture Secretary. And for her, the president doesn't like to take blame, so he may fire her, when this thing continues to roll out. And then we have the vice president, so American farmers are losing farms, and his real estate company is buying America's farms. So instead of the administration helping us, they're buying the farms and they're causing complete havoc. And it's all at the hands of these tariffs that the president said here on CNN yesterday, that he loves these tariffs, that he loves farmers, but farmers are losing their farm at an all-time high in this country. bankruptcies are up, suicides are up, farm foreclosures are up. And we need a farm moratorium in this country. Why are we losing our farms at a man-made disaster that the president caused? Something has to be done, and Congress needs to step it up and really intervene on behalf of America's farmers.
And then
look,
thank you
right
very
now,
much for that,
Congress
Andy. And so now, the government is shut down, Will. And so that is to add insult to injury. What do you say about our friend John Boyd Jr.'s words there?
John's a great man, and he says it a lot better than I can, but he's absolutely right. This is an all-out assault on farming in this country. And what I try to tell farmers locally that I eat breakfast with on, Saturday morning is, Don, on 9/11, I was down in Atlanta, Georgia at a meeting, and I was 2 buildings away from the CNN building. And I always tell people, we called that meeting, and from the time I left Atlanta to the time I got home in North Carolina, America became one united nation because we were under attack. We saw a change in this country. I'll never forget driving down the road, and these little kids had pulled out all the red, white, and blue paper from the magazines they had in their station wagon, and they'd made a little American flag that they'd hung on the window. And that's when I knew everything was going to be okay. No matter what they'd thrown at us, we were going to come together as a country. That's the kind of moment we need right now in rural America. We need to put these political ideologies aside and understand that rural America, particularly farmers and ranchers, are under attack. And the only way you can repel this, the only way you can get things back to normal and eventually make things even better than they were before, is if we attack this together, not as Democrats and Republicans and independents, but as rural people, as farmers and ranchers from all backgrounds, all colors, men, women, young people, old farmers, all combined together to push back and say this is wrong. It's wrong for us to raise crops that sell at a price less than what we paid to raise them. It's wrong for a little kid to lay on the ground for 2 hours waiting for an ambulance to show up. It's wrong for any child to go to a school that's underfunded just because it's in rural America. These are things that have to be fixed. The consequences are real and they're human, and we can't fix them unless we come together to do it. So John is absolutely right. I can't wait to meet him in person someday.
All right. So let's bring in our legends now. The Lemon Legends are here. Will Westmoreland, they are, I'm sure, have some questions for you, or just to comment on everything. And by the way, I didn't ask you, Will, and you can talk about it as much as you want. You could say, don't ask me that. And how's your arm, and do you have full use of it, or what?
Yeah, I don't have full use. So as you can see, I can't really raise my wrist. That's all I can do with my fingers. So I've got about 40% usage. But like a lot of kids, it happened to me when I was young, Don. So I played high school football, and I threw the shot put in the discus, and I worked my way around it like so many people do. And it was a good chip to have on my shoulder. A lot of what I've been able to accomplish in my life was a direct result of saying that I wasn't going to let this thing get me down. So if I had it to do over again, and I knew then what I know now about what this was going to mean for me in my life, I can't honestly tell you if I would change what happened or not.
Wow. Legends, anybody raise your hand who wants to say, anybody have words or a question for Mr. Westmoreland? Go ahead, Kev.
How you doing, man? Thank you for sharing your story. It was really powerful. I really appreciate you sharing that. But my quick question is, since you shared your story, have any lawmakers or any of you guys' representation reached out to you, offering any kind of solutions or anything like that?
That just happened, Kev, for the first time today. So there's more to come on that, but there's a possibility we might be going to the nation's capital to tell our story. And I got to tell you, if I go up there, I want to talk to people in both parties. I want to share my story with them. I want to let them know what the ramifications are. So I hope I'm able to do that, because I just feel, and all of us need to be telling our personal stories. If you've got a grandmother or a grandfather that's in long-term care and that funding could be going away, tell that story. If you have a family member with a long-term DNA disorder that they're dealing with, like my little niece is, tell that story. These personal stories are the one thing that can cut through the politics and hopefully touch the hearts of these lawmakers that have to pass these policies that are going to fix this problem.
May Money.
Hey, everybody, and hey, Mr. Moore. Thank you so much.
Call me Will, guys. Call me Will.
Mr. Will, thank you so much for sharing. I really thought it was an inspiring story. One thing that you mentioned, and Don also mentioned, was that this was about, this is about politics. And I really wish that this election wasn't about the politics and was about the testing of our humanity and the way that we operate as a society in this country, because I think that's really what the test was, and we failed it. Just from your story alone, really just kind of shines a light on that. And then I have two questions here. I wrote them down in my handy dandy. So are you frustrated by your own people, in your area supporting this? And is there something that your community is doing to maybe help combat this situation? And then also, I'm in a blue state. I'm in California. I'm in Oakland, California, Bay Area. And, we're a donor state, and we, pretty much give money to all the red states, pretty much. And sometimes I find it very difficult to have empathy for people that don't have don't give that back to us. And it's hard for me to pay money out of my tax pockets that I literally are shallow and low for that. But that's why I think your story is important, because of it reminds us of that empathy that we need to have, that not everybody in these states are that way. And so I really do appreciate you coming and sharing this story, because it just brings us all back to the real issue here. It's not about politics. We are literally in a humanitarian crisis in this country and around the world. And so I just was wondering what you think about how we can solve this, especially in your community. And what do you think about the blue states that have been contributing to try to help, but don't seem to get the same don't seem to be received in the same way, if that makes sense.
And it makes a lot of sense. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. May, I'm glad you asked me that question, because I've told Don this before. Will Rogers, some of you may have heard of him. Anytime I'm talking to a younger person, I don't want to assume, but Will Rogers was a humorist from Oklahoma, and he's one of my idols because he just had an incredible outlook on rural America and had its pulse. And he had a quote. Somebody asked him once, a reporter did, in Oklahoma City or Tulsa. They said, Will, how does the average rural man learn? And he said, well, some learn by reading, and there are a few who learn by observation, and the rest of them just have to pee on the electric fence for themselves. And there's a lot of that going on right now. So yes, I'm frustrated, because having experienced what I did, May, at an early age, I try to view life, and I try to view policy, and I try to view government through that lens of how it impacts regular people. And I get frustrated. I do get frustrated with my people here in rural America, that they don't all view life and policy through that same prism. And I also get frustrated that they don't think through to the end. Like, I can guarantee you, May, and I only say this because I live here with these folks and I talk to them every day. They really believed the president when he said he was just going to export the criminals out of this country. They really believed the president when he said these tariffs are going to bring manufacturing back to the United States. Now, I say that, don't put my face on Mount Rushmore, because on election night, I told my boys, I said, well, I guess we're all going to have to be eating out of trash cans before our people here in rural America, get it. But now they're learning the hard way. And there are two ways we can respond to that. We can respond to that by, you're getting what you deserve, you're getting what you voted for, or we can view it as an opportunity. And what I'm trying to do is view it as an opportunity to meet people where they are. Now, my good friend John Bowman, the president of the St. Louis County NAACP, told me once, Will, you need to add a little bit to your speech, and that is, you don't meet racists and Nazis halfway. What I'm talking about is meeting people in rural America who are not hardcore MAGA, that are exhibiting the worst behaviors in mankind. I'm talking about the people in rural America that are waking up to the fact that they voted the wrong way, and they now want to join us. And they contact me and they talk to me every day, May. I promise you that. They're reaching out. They're getting it. Not as many as we want, not as fast as we want, but they are getting it. And the last thing I'll say.
I love that.
Yeah.
Please continue.
No, just the last thing I want to say, and I always want to remind my brothers and sisters on the left, and that is, don't forget that 40% of us out here in rural America have been fighting this fight with you for a long, long time. For 35 years, I've been out here fighting for marriage equality and economic justice and equal rights and all the other things that are so important to all of us. And I've learned that if we have a crash food supply, if we lose all of our farms and ranches, et cetera, it won't just be that MAGA voter that gets hurt. It's going to be all of us that have been fighting that fight with you that get hurt. And then, as is most often the case, my daddy died when I was 5 years old, and we took advantage of every social safety net program out there. We lived in the projects. We got food stamps, the funny money, back before you had the EBT card. I'm a product of that and a success story because of that. Those are the people who will get hurt before wealthy big ag and all the other people that voted for this. So I agree with you. I get frustrated, and I just have to take a deep breath and say, I got to change the minds that I can change, and hope that in the long run, there'll be enough of us to push back against this idiocy.
Lastly, first of all, that was a wonderful answer. Not anywhere close to as eloquent as I was expecting, but also, and no offense, I didn't mean that in like some shady way.
I didn't take it that way. My mom would say the same thing. Trust me. So
I was just saying, I would really love for one day for us to maybe be able to reach out, people in my area or like in blue states, to be able to reach out to the people that want the help, that are willing to work with us, in the blue states, and that are just about the humanity in the society, in the community building. I know y'all are out there, and so I'm very grateful for you being here today. And so,
Don, can I give a 5-second pitch?
Go for it.
If you want to do that, you can go to back40action.org, all spelled out, back40action.org. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is bring together people from rural and urban and suburban America to fight for these policies that are so critical. We'd love to have you. About half the people that support us are from our cities.
Go ahead. Who was next? Was it Keisha who had a question?
Yes. Hi, Will. I'm Keisha.
Hi, Keisha.
First, I wanted to thank you because I listened to a conversation you had with Don months ago where you talked about how people have basically been hoodwinked for 40 years into becoming the conservatives that they are and becoming MAGA. And that really changed the way I think about some of people who are MAGA. And I have less anger towards some people as some others may. So I really appreciate that. You have a very candid way of speaking that really helps change minds. So thank you for that.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, no problem. And I noticed that similar to what May asked, I'm curious, what kind of mind changes have you noticed in your community? Like what kind of, with all the things going on, how have you noticed people changing, whether it's in subtle ways or major ways, their beliefs?
Well, that's a great question, Keisha. And I got to tell you, these healthcare cuts have really been the tidal break. This is almost like, the dam has had little holes in it. And then we just got this big rain in the form of these cuts to Medicaid. And now the dam is breaking. So I'm talking to a lot more people over the last couple of weeks that are fed up with what's happening and are changing their minds. And I think that's why we've seen the big polling shift in rural America. It's starting to accelerate over the last few weeks. But I will tell you all along, and I want to preface this again by saying it's not happening fast enough, and it's not as many people as I want to see make the change. But where it began in the beginning is we have these programs on our farms where, let's say you've got a 500-acre farm and it's just maybe 2 or 3 big pastures for grassland. We have these programs where you can do what we call rotational grazing, and it emulates the way animals graze on the African Serengeti. So we break up our pastures into smaller pastures. We plant different. Biden administration, they really pushed these types of programs and farm to table. And you had farmers, one farmer I talked to down in Florida, they'd spent almost $600,000 on these programs and had a signed contract to get $400,000 of that back. And when the Trump administration came into office, they just said, you don't get that money. And they lost their farm. Now, this was a husband that had voted for Trump 3 times, but the wife was a Democrat. And she was one of these Democratic voters we hear about that voted Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump. And you and I, when we hear that, we're just like, how in the heck could somebody? But this happens a lot. There's a large percentage of voters that did that. They contacted me when they saw what we were doing at the Back 40, and they said, Will, we don't want to be one of these former MAGA people that change our minds and then don't tell anybody that we did it. And they came on and agreed that if we could get them in front of media, they'd be willing to tell their story and go a step further and say we were wrong. And we want to work together with Democrats and people that believe in good rural policy. And I talk to probably 5, 6, 7 people every week that are making this change. I don't want to misrepresent it. It's not as many as we want. It's not as fast as we want it to happen. But I'm a glass, half full kind of guy. And I want to take what I can get and hopefully get that snowball rolling down the hill. Because it's easy for me to go talk to Democrats. It's easy for me to go stand in front of a room of people that agree with me. Where I do my best work is like when I was down there talking to a couple hundred Republican Texas cattlemen about these same problems, making my case to them about why we need to do a better job in rural America. I think that's where I can be most effective, because when I come on social media, a 57-year-old white farmer, typically with my red St. Louis Cardinals hat on, people are expecting a certain message from me. And then when they hear what they hear, I think sometimes it crosses up their wires a little bit. They don't quite know what to think, and they're open to that alternative message.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Keisha. More from Will, more questions from our legends, and also in the chat. First, a word from our sponsors, and we're back. And then, Andrea, you got a question. Well, give me 2 minutes. Support comes from Lean. So we have all tried those fad diets, juice cleanses. Remember that? Remember cabbage soup? The cabbage soup diet, grapefruit weeks. You lose a little and then you gain it all back with interest. That means plus more. Doctors call it weight cycling, and it can lead to diabetes, liver damage, even heart disease, heart issues, I should say. Now, that's why, I like Lean. It's not an injectable. It's doctor created. It's an oral supplement. Lean helps stabilize blood sugar, curb cravings, and convert fat into energy. No gimmicks, just support alongside diet and exercise so the weight actually stays off. Now, I have noticed more energy, fewer midnight snack runs, and a steadier rhythm day to day. It has helped. So if you're ready to break the cycle, go to takelean.com and use the code LEMON for 20% off. That's TAKELEAN.com and use the code LEMON. This is how you lose it and keep it off. Lean. The Don Lemon Show is also brought to you by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Across America, politicians are pushing religion into public schools, 10 Commandments posters, untrained chaplains, and funding private religious schools that exclude LGBTQ kids. That's not freedom, that's coercion. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is fighting back. They just won a federal injunction stopping a Texas law that forced every classroom to display the 10 Commandments. That is a win for the First Amendment. They defend separation of church and state in court, in Congress, and in classrooms. So public education stays just that, public. You can learn more at ffrf.org/school or text Don to 511-511. That's F as in freedom, F as in freedom, R religion, F again as in freedom.org/school, or text Don to 511-511. Standard text rates may apply. Don't let your rights be rewritten. So thank you to our sponsors. Go ahead, Andrea.
Hello, Will. I'm so happy you came and shared your story with us.
Thank you.
And it's very sad and thought-provoking. One of the things I was thinking, I know other people have thought, is the reason that we've shut down the government, the reason Donald Trump keeps changing the subject is he's trying to deflect from Epstein. He's trying his best to not have that story come out. He'll do anything, whether it's to hurt people by not providing food or, like Brazil, they're buying the food from Brazil now, the soy, they brought Canada brought the food from Brazil instead of buying it from the United States. And they know that they want your farms to all close down. They want them to all be taken over by one person or one big mega company so that all of you go bankrupt. They don't care if you go bankrupt. And all of this is just because they don't want these Epstein files to come out. And I wanted to know, do the people in your area, do they even pay attention to the politics as far as the Epstein files?
Yeah, that's a great question, Audrey. I got to tell you, the politics of the Epstein files and QAnon, et cetera, those are big issues in rural America. I will tell you, even during COVID, there were multiple marches in my little town of 10,000 people. You remember the Protect the Children marches? Those were really just an offshoot of the whole QAnon conspiracy theory. They built an entire political ideology around the Epstein files and QAnon, et cetera. They use this as a political wedge to drive people toward the support of MAGA. And I can tell you where I live, and I've even got people in my family that have fallen for this. Where I live, they're not going to let them off the hook. This seems to be the one issue, to your point, that cuts through the political mirage, and they're not going to let them off the hook. And there are doubts. There are cracks in the wall. I've talked to family members. I've talked to good friends of mine at breakfast on Saturday morning that are just openly stating the fact, well, he must be on that list or they would have released it by now. So that's a positive sign in terms of them getting what's happening right before their very eyes. But the other thing I do want to say is that old saying, we've got to chew gum and walk at the same time. While we're stressing the fact that this is happening to hide the Epstein files, we've still got to be talking consistently about these bad policies and what they're doing to everybody in America. Having been involved in politics for over 35 years, I know I keep saying this, and forgive me for sounding like a broken record, but when you do polling and you talk about the politics of resentment, our brothers and sisters in the inner cities and in rural America, their resentments are very, very, very close to one another. They almost vote for the exact same reasons when it comes to we've been neglected, our streets haven't been fixed, our schools haven't been funded, we don't have good hospitals and healthcare. These are areas where we can come together. So I think the more we talk about our personal stories, it doesn't matter what color you are, what your socioeconomic background is, what country you come from. If you've got a sick family member that needs medical care, a grandmother that's had a stroke, a grandfather that had a heart attack, or that little kid like me laying out on the ground, when you tell that story and we're sharing those personal stories with one another, in most instances, what I've noticed is that politics just slowly ebbs to the side. And then you can open up people's hearts and minds to, all right, now what can we do to guarantee that the people we love get the help they need? So I know, again, broken record, I keep coming back to it. Tell those personal stories. Talk about how these things impact, you personally. And then one thing I can promise you in response to your question is rural America won't let up on this. It's ingrained in them. They want to see those files. They want to know what happened, and they're not going to give them a pass. I'll just tell you that right now. They won't give them a pass.
Ashley, I want to get someone else in, Andre, if that's okay. Ashley, you had your hand up earlier, and I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak.
I'll try to abbreviate my answers a little bit too. I can get on a soapbox.
Yeah, Ashley, you're muted. If you're trying to speak, you are muted.
Okay, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Thank you.
Quick questions, though, everyone.
Hi, Ashley.
Yes, hi. Most of my questions have been answered by some of the other legends, and thank you for your responses. I just want to commend you for coming on here and sharing your story. And I agree with some of the things that you said about talking to our policymakers, because I am a mother that had a son that went through something very traumatic, not once and not twice. And I'm a working full-time person, and I did have to use benefits, and I did have to speak to local leaders, and it's not easy. And so I just commend you for speaking up about that, because a lot of us feel like, well, those benefits aren't for me because I work, and they are. They are.
That's right.
Because my son battled cancer twice at a very young age. And so not once, but twice. And so it took a lot of time from work, and I had to get the Medicaid, and I had to get those things. So thank you for sharing that. And also, I think it was Keisha that said to you about just how to engage, or May Money, about how to engage with people who are not likely to have a conversation with us, and kind of breaking down that bridge. So thank you for giving that advice.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
just
I
truly
appreciate
believe
it.
personal stories are where it's at. And I think they'll break a lot of walls down that keep us from talking.
Thank
Yes.
you. Okay, so everyone, I am going to let Will go because we've had him for a long time, and then we're just going to do some general questions and talk about the day, the week, or whatever. Sosa, I know you have a question, but can you save it for after Will, or was it specifically for Will? You can save it? Okay, good. All right, Will, thank you. But thank you for being so candid and sharing your story. It
Thanks so
really
much,
means a lot.
Will. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure,
Thank you,
really.
guys. No, Don,
Yeah.
thanks for
Thank you,
letting me have a
Will.
platform
We
to do it. I
appreciate you,
really
Will.
appreciate it.
Would love to
Thanks,
talk
guys.
to you again, Will. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day.
Thank you.
Take care.
So, guys, I mean, I love our legends. I love our legends. I was on a podcast today, Kat Greenleaf. You remember Kat Greenleaf? She used to do talk stupid, whatever. Anyway, Kat Greenleaf said, "I love that you have the people on the screen and they're talking and whatever." And I said, "Yeah, that's my members. Those are my legends." And she was like, I mean, it was for her, it was captivating. She said, it's captivating to hear. And that, would she say, that real people, besides people who had agendas like contributors and, you know what I mean, analysts, that we were talking to real everyday people, which was just amazing. So we have lots to talk about. The government is shut down. You saw Megyn Kelly and Glenn Greenwald went after me. What else do we have? We've got shooters going around and nobody's talking about the shooters now. I mean, what is going on? And I know that some of you have something to say. Like who? Nobody? Sosa?
Listen, we all
Mm.
got plenty
What's up,
to
Miss Elena?
say.
We're gonna say,
Hey, no, I got something to say, especially with the farming things. I'm not hip to Will's information or doctrine, so I have to look it up. But coming from great grandparents who I had until 30 years old, I'm 35, they were sharecroppers and their parents were slaves. So it's really hard for me to, and I'm gonna be honest, might be the only black person up here to say this, but it's hard for me to really feel empathy for any farmer in America because of that.
May Money
But
said that.
just seeing him come up here and so for him to come up here and speak his stuff that was going on and being the man and crying and stuff like that, like I can give props to that any type of day. And as a veteran, I definitely stand on what I say about that. But I would love to learn more about him. But I'm just gonna be honest. When I heard about the stuff with the farmers, maybe like last month, I really didn't give a shit, just because of the reasons of the things that happen with our lineage type shit. But that's just me being honest.
Hey, that's you. Hey, you know how I feel about the First Amendment. You say your piece, and your piece and your opinion, that's yours. I think Momo wants to. Thanks for sharing, Sosa. I think Momo wants to share.
Sure.
Is that right?
Yeah. I was listening to
I was
him
looking at
and
you when I said I know some people have some stuff to share. They're not sharing it right now, and I'm looking at you.
She ready.
of course. No, I was listening to his story and it just reminded me of my husband's story, and he just turned 50. So this didn't happen too long ago. He had cancer when he was a child. And this was back in the day when they could decide that they could just kick you off of healthcare. And they literally rolled him across the street to a charity hospital.
Oh my God.
Yes, they just stopped his treatment when he was a kid and rolled him across the street to the charity hospital. Now, this was in New Orleans, I believe. And the one good thing I can say about Charity Hospital back then is that the same doctors that worked across the street donated their time across the street at Charity. So basically he was getting the same treatment, but the insurance company just decided they didn't want to pay for it anymore. And so when you hear about all these different cuts and things that they're doing, he also had to wait very long he had to go farther out to a hospital rather than go to one that was 5 minutes away when he broke his arm because of the same sort of thing, the insurance that wasn't taken at the hospital that was closest to him. So it's very, very important that this is, like he said, a humanitarian crisis. This is not about politics. This is just about people in general. And it can happen in a city as well as a rural place.
Thank you, Momo. Lori, unmute. Are you there?
This week I've
I
been
know
thinking
you.
a lot about
I know you're on camera. You look good. You don't have to fix your hair.
okay, thanks. Yeah. So this week has been kind of stressful, because of the shutdown. But the thing that I'm getting really irritated is every news network has the Republicans and still telling the same lie about those credits. The Democrats, did this because, they can't wait till December and all that. So I'm just starting to really get on my nerves that, they're still putting this lie out after it's been debunked, and it's not going to undocumented, immigrants. It's not going to anything they're saying.
Well, they don't care. And that's the whole point that I say every time. And people say, oh my gosh, you have Trump derangement syndrome. But all you have to do, Lori, is look at what they say and look at the fact checks. And what it's none of it's there. This is not about transgender athletes. It's not about, getting Cadillac healthcare to undocumented immigrants and all the other stuff that they're BSing about. It's really, they're playing, with the American people's healthcare, livelihood, and health. And I just think it's just unfathomable. Roseanne?
Hi, thank
Hi,
you.
Roseanne. How are you today?
Oh boy.
I feel
It's
it. I
been
feel
a
you.
very it's been very stressful. My business, I deal with doctors. And this shutdown has me concerned because are my guys going to get paid? And they are still caring for patients. They're doing surgeries. And my revenue is based on their revenue. So, I'm concerned about that. But the other thing that just totally and completely pisses me off is how he treated our military. And on Tuesday, my dad was a veteran. My dad enlisted when he was 16, went to Europe before the age of 17. And for him to just go there and completely disrespect all of those men and women in the room got my blood boiling. And just my last thing is, my family are farmers and dairymen. I'm a second generation Italian. My grandparents came from Italy. My grandmother had a 79-acre dairy that she hand milked the cows, both her and my grandfather. My family all voted, the ones that are left, my cousins, they all voted for Trump. And now they are just screaming. And it's like, you know what? I don't want to hear it. You're getting what you voted for. And there's not a whole lot I can do for you, FAFO, as they say.
I want to ask you guys, and if please someone jump in if you haven't spoken. We haven't heard from Maureen. We haven't heard from, let's see. Let me look. Can we make the
Hi,
screen bigger?
Don. I had my hand up.
We haven't heard from, who had their hand up? Who is that?
It was Ashley.
Oh, hi.
I watched your lemon drop at 2 when you were speaking to Ari, and you said something that I really truly agreed with. Like, he questioned you about like where the Democrats are going and what are the message. And I know we have so many messages, but healthcare is really important. Because I think at least two of us just now talked about something with healthcare. And I think a lot of people, because we think we have our jobs for now and things like that, we don't know at what time we will need. Like, I didn't know that my son would have cancer at age 8. And if that happened today, what happened then? I don't know how I would feel. I really don't. And I just really hope that, I don't know. I just really hope that like America just comes to its senses because it's just too much divide. But I'm so thankful that I'm not experiencing what I did then right now because I don't think I would be able to make it just with the thought of having to make those choices right now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry about your son. I'm sorry about your son.
Thank you. He's well now. He's in 7 years of remission, first year of college. So I'm thankful for that.
Oh, good.
Awesome.
I did, Roseanne and Maureen, right?
No,
I'm
it's
good.
over. Everyone was great here today. Brought a lot of good thoughts. I thought Wes was amazing. I'm overwhelmed. So many things have gone on, but can I share a story about healthcare? I was very fortunate that I've had good healthcare, and my husband, who passed away a few years ago, but he suffered from heart issues. He was very tenacious, but a story, we were close to a hospital. This is what worries me for everyone. I went into the kitchen and he had passed out. And I was able to get the ambulance out right away, and he was taken to the hospital and he survived. But if he didn't have that kind of care, he didn't have that hospital close by, he would not have been alive. I had him extra time, right, by having that good health care. So I can't understand why I can. Trump doesn't care about anything. None of them do. And how they cannot understand how important healthcare. You've heard all the stories today of the utmost importance.
Thank you, Maureen. Dr. Felicia?
Yeah, you are. Hold on. Oh, my camera's not on. Okay, there we go. Yes.
There you are.
How y'all doing?
Oh, how you doing?
Healthcare. I'm good. I'm good. Healthcare, I think it's a lot of politics behind that as well. As I mentioned last week, I'm a psychologist and I did a lot of research with Anthem. And a lot of times, I used to leave in tears. I could only do like 2 years there because claims are rejected and it's just politics behind it. It was really bad. I would be on the phone with doctors. They would be fighting for their patients and they would still reject them. People were literally going through surgery. Nope, we're not accepting the claim. We're not able to follow through. And it would be like little kids. I've had stories where they were like becoming suicidal at like, I was talking to nurses where they're like, I have a 10-year-old who needs to be on medication because they're suicidal at that age. And the policies behind the insurance companies, it's just ridiculous. So I think we also need to focus on them as well because it's all like a kind of a game with that as far as accepting, rejecting claims, and literally allowing people to get the health care that they need. And I also have a cancer story. Luckily, it was around a different administration. My dad had prostate cancer and he got the help he needed. But I've heard stories where it's during this administration, I'm scared, like what would even happen, or even wanting to have a child at this time I'm scared to even do that because of what's going on. So his story is very courageous and just I'm sad to hear it. And hopefully, I don't know, just trying to think more positive about this situation that we're in.
Well, thank you.
This story is so necessary, though. I'm sorry, Don.
No, go ahead.
As I was listening to him, like I just kept thinking, why don't we have more stories like this? I feel like the media, they don't really focus on rural America. Even the politicians, like they don't really campaign there the way they're supposed to. And they're, not to be corny or cheesy, but they're kind of the backbone of the heart of America. And I'm pretty sure that there are more like Will than we even realize, but their stories aren't being spotlighted. And that's unfortunate because I think stories like his will help us get through this shit. It's very necessary.
Well, thank you, Kev. That's why we had him on.
100%.
Who's that? Ashley?
Exactly, Kevin.
Oh, that's Momo.
No, that was me.
Mo Money.
I just wanted to agree with you, Kevin. I really do think that we need more of, I'm sorry, palm colored people, stories like that from you, so that we can empathize, because it's been nothing but hatred and all sorts of stuff coming from your supposed people, when
Right.
we need to start hearing more from the people that don't agree with that type of rhetoric from that, and
Right.
so this really changed my thought, and really kind of made me take a step back and be like, okay, I
Okay.
can't just be hating on all of Red America. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Right.
but I understand your point. I feel you when you say it's hard too, because uh, I told you how many times that I get here and I lost my voice so much saying, y'all, an unhinged Trump, a Trump with no guardrails. Wait, all right, it's going to be 2025. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican, but I believe in democracy. So I'm voting for Kamala Harris. I support Kamala Harris, blah, 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 blah. Day after day after day. I know that Sosa and Keisha want to jump in quick, please, so that because, we've been on for a
Yeah,
long
Yes,
time.
sir.
Go
I
on.
just wanted to say, with regards to the Republicans saying that the Democrats are responsible for the shutdown because they want to give illegal immigrants medical care. What if they did? It's not true, but what if they did? Like,
Mhm.
why would you deny necessary medical care to people? These are human beings. What does it matter what their status is according to some stupid policy? Maybe don't spend that money on the ballroom that we don't need. Maybe don't spend money bringing generals to one area that is unsafe, having them listen to Pete Hegseth give a TED talk.
You don't
Like, I don't
want my big, beautiful ballroom?
sure don't.
Such a
Hell
dumbass.
no.
Ain't got no
Such
big,
a
beautiful
dumbass.
balls, let
Who
alone a
else?
room.
Who has something?
Where
Is
that
it
$17 trillion is?
No,
so?
Don, I just wanted to say
That's
real
so.
quick that I'm tired of the motherfuckers who pay the least in taxes keep trying to take shit from us. That's all I wanted to say.
I don't
Period.
think people disagree with you. It's true. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Who else
I
had?
just had
Go ahead,
one last
Momo.
thing to say. I wish well, he'll probably hear this, but people like Will, we do need their help, because what he was saying about, I don't agree when people say, I didn't vote for this. You did. You voted for it. The person that was telling you the truth, you didn't care to hear from her. So you dismissed her. But she said and predicted everything that would happen. And from 2016 on, we have been telling you what this man is about. He screwed y'all over the first time, and then you went back for seconds, and some of you went back for thirds. So what we need are voices like his, because if I get on a soapbox in rural America, they might lynch me, but they will listen to him. It depends on the messenger, because the message was there. I heard it loud. Every single time she opened her mouth, I heard her message. Regardless of the mainstream media is just dead. Independent media, y'all, subscribe, join, because mainstream is gone. It's gone.
Momo, let me just say this. There's someone who sent pictures in to us. And I just want all the legends. Let's put all the legends up. We'll send the pictures, and then we'll put the photographs up. I'm not sure what you can do, Andy, but I want you to see Momo. Oh, turn the TV off. Look at her. All right now. Strutting up, right? What else do we have? I love to turn the TV off. Who else do we have? Oh, Andy, who's this?
I believe this is Momo's husband.
Momo, is this your husband?
Oh.
Yes. Oh, wait. I remember, Momo. I said, who is that with the tattoos in the background? Do you remember I said that once?
Yes.
That was him?
That's my hubby.
Congratulations, Momo. You got a gym workout body. Good for you. I like it. He looks better in that shirt than I will ever look. Good for you. What's his name?
Mike. Well, Michael, but everybody calls him Mike. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for supporting us. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Momo. I think are those all the pics?
Yeah, that's
Andy?
all.
Thank you. All right, guys. I'll see you next time. Thank you, legends. Do we have applause, Andy? Oh, wait, before we go, because the legends are here, Andy, because the legends are here, can we do the song?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, please.
Yay.
Hell
It's
yeah,
the
let's turn
Don
up on them,
Lemon
man.
Show. It's the Don Lemon Show. He's unmasking the truth. He don't take no shit. It's the Don Lemon Show. Don Lemon. Don, 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 Don. Release the Epstein.
Hey, but this is please.
I love you guys so much. I'll see you next week, okay?
Thank
And
you,
sooner,
Don.
and even sooner in the
Good
comments,
one.
all right? So you guys have a great evening. Have a great evening. Okay. Our legends, I love those guys so much. Amazing. If you guys want to know anything about our program, our show here, you can go to donlemon.com and check it out there. If you want to get some of the merch like this, my glass that I had a little Barkley, come over here. You want to get on? He's over there like Dennis the Menace barking. And then you can check out our merch. I know you asked for it. You asked for it. You got it. Toyota. That's an old ad. But there you go. You guys asked for it. So there's lots of great stuff. Go check out our merch store. All you have to do is go to donlemon.com and click on merch, and it is right there. If you want to become a member, you can just go click on right at the top where it says watch. That's our main show on YouTube. You can subscribe. It's free. Become a member. Very reasonable. If you're at a certain tier, you get to be on like our Lemon Legends. Okay. So I know you're right. Who is that? Redbird, dinner time. Come on, Dad. Hungry time. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. I want you to be informed without being inundated until I see you back here live tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time on the Don Lemon Show and the Don Lemon channel. Turn the TV off. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never, ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next.